Okay.
So let's start from the heart. I always like to start the circulatory system from the heart.
All right.
So bringing blood into the heart, we have the superior vena cava. Now, what I like about this is that over on the left side we have a nice big brachiocephalic and nice jugular coming in. Over on the right side, this is not really what it looks like. So be sure to look at the cadaver or at the torso, because you do have a right brachiocephalic vein that really doesn't show up here. You have a subclavian coming in and you have a jugular just like on this side, but they needed to stretch it a little further so that you had the brachiocephalic. So you have two brachiocephalic veins, a right and a left. One brachiocephalic trunk that's an artery. So that's what I don't like about that. Then, as long as we're on veins, staying on the veins, this is the cephalic, this is the basilic, and those are both superficial veins that drain the arm, but what they've cut off is the brachial. So the brachial is a deep one that would run right along here, and they've cut that one off. So I can't ask that one, obviously, on the model. Going down into the legs then, bringing blood from the lower body, we have the great saphenous, but the other vein that would also be a large vein draining the legs would be the femoral, and they've cut it off. So we don't have the femoral there, but we have the nice femoral vein sitting underneath the femoral artery. So it really would pass down and be underneath the femoral artery, and then the great saphenous would be coming up here.
Can you tell the femorals apart on the cadaver?
Yeah.
Okay.
Female leg. Look at the leg of the
One
female.
was flat, wasn't it?
Yeah. When you get to the femoral artery, it's very round down in the leg, and then right underneath it is a femoral vein that's very flat, and then very skinny but long is the great saphenous.
Right.
Yeah. So then, again, on the venous system, so eventually the great saphenous meets the femoral, and they form the external iliac veins that come up, and when the internal iliac vein feeds into the external iliac vein, they become the common iliacs, and they join to form the inferior vena cava, the renal veins, and we've got at least one renal vein that shows up on the cadaver, the hepatoportal system that brings the blood from all the digestive organs, small intestines, large intestines, stomach, etc., and brings it into the liver. The liver then processes it, and then the hepatic vein takes it back to the inferior vena cava, which you know that the heart is actually like this, and so it just pops through right here through the diaphragm, and there's actually the right atrium right there. So they don't really have it positioned. So those are the veins. Blood coming back, blood leaving the heart. So from the aortic semilunars, the ascending aorta, this doesn't have the coronary arteries, but the coronary arteries would be the first blood vessels off feeding the heart. And then the first branch off the aortic arch would be the brachiocephalic trunk. That's a trunk because it's short, and then coming right off of it is the right common carotid, the right subclavian, that becomes the right axillary, that becomes the right brachial, that becomes the radial and the ulnar arteries feeding the arm. Far more direct, fewer arteries than you have veins. Really obvious, that's really obvious in the arm. The next coming off then, off the aortic arch, is a left common carotid. You might think about that left common carotid on that model of the white skull. Yeah, that one right there. So here it comes up the neck, and you have two of them, even though the model only has one. So the common carotid comes and splits into the external and the internal, and our interest is in the internal because it comes through the carotid canal. Do you have a pencil with like an eraser? That guy right there. And then it comes up through the carotid canal, and that's the internal carotid on either side. Internal carotid on either side, bringing blood up to, what is the circle of blood vessels? Circle of Willis, that's going to now feed the brain. But there might be a problem with the internal carotid, so we need to make sure we have extra blood supply coming into the brain. And so actually coming off, it doesn't show here, but coming off the subclavian are the right and left vertebrals, and they come through the transverse foramen of the vertebrae, and then come up through the foramen magnum, and forming the right and left vertebrals joined to form the basilar artery. That also brings blood up to the circle of Willis. Did you guys see? So this is the basilar from the vertebrals coming up, forming the circle of Willis. The circle of Willis then starts distributing the blood off to the brain, and they're all just simply too little or torn up for me to label, except for one large artery, the middle cerebral, that comes up and starts feeding the brain, blood to the brain. Anterior cerebrals, posterior cerebrals are part of the circle of Willis, and they come up and feed the brain also, but they're just little stubs, so I can't put numbers on them. But so all you need to know the middle cerebral, but if I would have this string on any other of these other parts, you would just tell me it's a circle of Willis. You don't need to know the blood vessels that make up the circle of Willis.
And this side's also middle cerebral?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it looks like the internal carotid just takes a turn, but it doesn't really. It really branches, but the big branch is the middle cerebral, but they're limited when they make a model, what exactly they want it to hold together. So so let's see, we already did the arteries of the arm. So the aortic arch then becomes the descending aorta, and the descending aorta behind the heart against your vertebral column is the thoracic portion of the descending aorta. Then it comes through the diaphragm. Is the abdominal portion of the descending aorta, and the first branch off is the celiac trunk. This has three branches that branch yet further to feed blood to the stomach, the spleen, the liver, the small intestine, not the small intestines, liver, spleen, stomach, pancreas, other digestive organs, and then serving the small intestines and part of the large intestines is the superior vena cava, and then blood to the kidneys, the renal arteries, and then to the rest of the large intestines, the inferior mesenteric, and then we have what's called the terminal of the aorta, and then it branches into the common iliacs, and then the internal iliac comes off. Let's see, I'll go this direction. Then we have the external iliac, and when it passes through the body wall, it becomes the femoral, and the femoral is cut off over here. A pretty direct route down into the foot. Ba-boom. Happy
Thank you.
Think we got it?
Yes.
Yeah, you can. All right.